Testing. All right. Just want to kind of take a look at a couple of things. Want to get this going here as well. Grateful to God for all of you who are sharing with us on today. Just want to bring up a couple of things here so I can have everything in order and ready to roll when the time comes for us to do what we need to do. Double check here, make sure that we're moving forward. We're looking so far, and we are now live. So, and I know we've probably been live for a little while, but again, overwhelmingly grateful for those of you who are here with us. Hey Rita, how are you this evening? Good to have you on board with us, and I'm getting ready to look here to make sure that my page has come up. And it should be rolling here any second. And we should be ready to go. Jeanette, how are you? Cecile, good to see those of you who are coming on board. There we go. Now mine's just running. Grateful to God. Carolyn, how are you this evening? I pray all is well with everyone and that you are enjoying a fabulous day. There we go. Daryl, I'm fine. How are you, sir? Again, just thankful that we have the privilege of being able to come and to share with you on today. We are just grateful to God for all that He is doing and shall continue to do. Laverne, good to see you. Jaleesa, good to see you. Minister Philippe, Pastor Brown, Lori, Tom, good to have you on board with us on tonight. We're going to get started in 2 minutes. In 2 minutes, we're going to go ahead and begin our lesson that we have for you today. Hey Sandra, how are you doing? Katrina, down in Florida, praying mightily for you. Carolyn Johnson, good to see you, praying for your family in the midst of all that's going on. Debbie, Deborah, good to have you with us on tonight. And just again, as I have said before, just overwhelmingly grateful. Iris, I see you coming on, and just happy. Robert, good to have you. And I'm gonna wait another minute, and then we'll go from there. And we'll see what the Lord has to say. And I believe He's got something to say. I really do. I've never not known Him to say. Goalie, how are you doing? Praying that all is well with you and yours. Make sure you share. Make sure you share. I forgot. Got to do that every time. Linda, good to see you. Maria, good to have you on board with us. Grateful for those of you who are coming on. As you do so, as we have asked in the past, make sure you share. Carol, how are you? Praying all is well with you and your family. I asked a couple of questions earlier. I said, and I really mean this because If God doesn't have your heart, who does? And I think that's a really prevalent and relevant question to ask at this particular time. Hey, Michelle, how are you? We're also grateful to God for those of you who are watching on our website, as well as those who are watching on YouTube. It's good to have each and every one of you sharing with us on today. I'm missing something. I find this, and then I'll be in good shape. And so we are so grateful to God for the privilege of just having you on board with us. Cynthia, I see you. Lisa, I see you. Good to see those that are coming on. Okay, and the reason that I posed this question the way that I did, I talked about if your heart is broken because someone other than God has your heart been broken because of someone other than God. Minister Sarah, good to see you. Is your heart so hard now that it can't feel anything? It can't experience anything? Sharon, how are you doing this evening? Well, Lena, I see you as you're coming on board. And so I ask these questions, and the reason I ask them, and the reason I kind of pose them to just kind of get you to think about something for just a moment. How long have, and all of us have done it. Let us not fool ourselves. Let us not try to trick ourselves into thinking that there have not been those moments in our life when we did not do this. Every single one of us at one time or another. Hey, Sheila, how are you? Make sure you share. Make sure everyone shares. That way we can get as many on board with this lesson for tonight as we can. All of us are guilty. All of us have found ourselves in positions where we trusted, and it's not. And I'm not saying that we can't trust people. That's not what I'm saying. I'm not saying that we can't have relationships. That's not what I'm saying. Tanya, what I'm trying to get people to recognize and understand is that in the midst of everything we do, in the midst of everything we participate in, Angela, good to have you. Cecile, this is important that we all recognize this and see this. There can never be a moment in your life, there can never be a time in your life where the Lord has to play second fiddle, where the Lord is not preeminent in the midst of everything that you do. I am not saying that you can't enjoy life. I am not saying that you can't have a good time. I am not saying that you can't do some things. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is, in the midst of everything we do, everywhere we go, everyone, hey, Pat, did you get my text message, Pat? I needed to know that. Marilyn, in the midst of everything that happens in our lives, we cannot afford, Thea, we can't afford to find ourselves in a position whereby we are not where we should be with the Lord, Cynthia. And this is important. And the reason that so many people find themselves in these conditions is due to the fact that once something else comes along, Carletta, then what happens is what used to be the priority ceases to be. And I know that right there probably will rub, in this lesson probably will rub a couple of people the wrong way. But the point that I need us to see and to get and to recognize is that in order for you to be and to move and to live a very impactful and meaningful life. And what do I mean by that? Because I need to give some definitions of a couple of things. Minister Avery, good to see you. I'm not saying money. I'm not saying riches. I'm not saying popularity. What I am saying is, Sylvia Scott, in order to live the life that God wants you to live, God must be the priority in everything, and he can never find himself in a position, a Minister Faye, where he is playing second fiddle. Barbara, good to see you this evening. This is important. Everybody has to understand that, and everybody is guilty, Lavernon, of not doing that. Good to see you on today. And this is, no ma'am, no Pat. Go back and look what I asked you about something yesterday. And so in the midst of this, Elder Carter, how are you? In the midst of this, this is what we're going to accept, because you cannot, Lady Harrison, experience God and then find yourself in a position where God is not preeminent and God is not the head. And so there are, and I talked about this last week a little bit, there are some times in our lives where we allow other things and other people and other situations, Valerie, to be so important to us. I'm giving an example. Give you a real good example, and this is just a hypothetical. Sometimes when people are not as materially astute as they are now, they are faithful. They're faithful to the Lord. They're there. They whatever. And then as the Lord prospers them, sometimes there is this proclivity whereby people decide, Judge Rob, good to have you with us. People decide that I'm not going to be found as faithful to the Lord as I have been, because now I have the means and the capability to do things I could not do before, Cora. And so because I now have the means to travel, to enjoy life, to buy things, and don't get me wrong, to enjoy life, because God said, I came that you might have life and have it more abundantly. Edward, but what we've got to catch here, Denise, is that in the midst of, out of all that God, make sure you share, in the midst of all that God does for you, how far back do we push that fellowship with him? Are we as consistent in talking to him and sharing with him and praying with him? And people have to get past this notion of thinking that the only time you pray is on Sunday morning, but the Bible declares that we should pray without ceasing, which means there should always be this consistent activity that's taking place here. And so what we've got to remember is, Erica, the God who has prospered us is also the God who can deplete us. Okay, y'all, okay. See, Tanika, the God that prospers us is the God who can also deplete us. And so what we've got to recognize, as God moves in my life, as God does things in my life, as God provides more in my life, here's what you've got to remember, Catherine. In the midst of all that he does, he expects that level of faithfulness to be just as strong in the midst of plenty as it was in those times of want. And so here's what happens. These things pull us away. Lisa, good to see you. Tell your mother I said hi. These things happen. They pull us away. They draw us away, because now we can entertain ourselves better. And I'm going to say it. I believe that we didn't get it. I believe that in the midst, and I'm going to say this, and I know some people are going to get upset about it, but oh well, you just got to get over it. I want us to think about this. Yes, they were talking about social distancing, the importance of doing that, and there were those who said, well, you know, this is my constitutional right to do whatever I want to do whenever I feel like it, and all that kind of stuff, and all of that's fine and good if that's how you feel. But what you've got to remember and understand, this world does not exist with just you. It has other people. It has other people that are just as important, Pastor Stanford. And so here's what happened. People began to do some of the things that they were doing. All of a sudden, people are praying more. All of a sudden, when you find yourself in an isolated moment, it's in those isolated moments that you draw closer to the Lord, Pastor Gray. But here's the problem that took place, Patricia. Here's the problem that happened, is that all of a sudden, as things began to open, habits came back. Okay, I know y'all don't like me today, but think about this. The things that they were pushing for, and there's nothing wrong, because businesses do need to open. Yes, they do. But the priority of the people who are upset now because they can't go to their favorite bar and they can't go to their favorite restaurant, and in the midst of everything that's going on, okay, in the midst of everything that's happening, God says, okay, the bar, the restaurant, the parties, the pool parties, the major gatherings, all of those things that all of a sudden people started doing began to increase the situation of the virus. I wish I see if we would have just, and I believe there's a divine attachment to this, whether you believe in God or not, there's a divine attachment to what's going on here. God is pushing people toward him even when they don't want to go. And so in the midst of this, in the midst of everything that's happening, in the midst of all that's going on, God has permitted, because God gives us permissive will. But we must remember, in the midst of permissive will, there are repercussions that take place, whether you make a good decision or a bad decision. And so in the midst of this, in the midst of it all, that's right, Robert, many people don't understand that as your cup runs over, Serena, as God blesses you abundantly in your life, it's not so that you deplete yourself from him, but what it does is it should, it's the goodness of the Lord that leads to repentance. And so you should draw closer to him the more he blesses you. You should be more faithful to him the more he provides for you. But what do? All of a sudden, out on the beaches again, all of a sudden, all up in the bars again, all of a sudden, and you can get mad at me all you want to, but I'm going to call it like it need to be called. All of a sudden, it's party time again, all of a sudden, and everything that we should have learned while in isolation went out the window. And so God said, okay, I don't have no problem with that. Because you wouldn't listen, because you wouldn't draw nigh unto me. I'm just going to let some other things happen. I'm going to allow it to happen. And the sad part about it is, because of your individualistic, self-centered ideologies, people are headed to cemeteries because you wouldn't listen to God. Yes, you got to listen to the people, you got to listen to the doctors, you got to listen to the scientists, because they know what they're talking about. But there's a God voice. Oh, there's a God move that we missed due to the fact, Willie Bell, that we just want to do whatever we want to do. So what happens to us, as in Deuteronomy 30:17, I can't hear him anymore. This was an illustration that I was going to use last week, but it slipped my mind. If you remember the story of Samson and Delilah. You remember that story? And so Jennifer, he fell in love with Delilah. Delilah was a fine sister, and so not realizing that she was orchestrated by the Philistines to bring him down. Sabrina, good to see you today. Make sure you share as you come on. Make sure you share. And so in the midst of that, she began to ask him. She got his heart. She got him caught up. She did all of those things. And in the midst of everything that's happening, we see clearly that she asked him one question. What's the source of your strength? Where does your strength come from? And he lied. He lied every time. He said, if you do this, if you use a silk thread, if you do this, you do that or the other, that I'll be just as weak as any other man. And Katrina Foster, in the midst of all of that, he lied, and she came back, and she said, I thought you loved me, baby. I thought I was the best thing that ever happened to you. I thought you were I was your lover. I was your all in all. Hey, Sherry, how are you? And your everything. And so finally he broke down. Look at what happens. Look at what happens when we find ourselves in a position whereby slowly our God consciousness is being eroded. Okay, y'all, I hope I have somebody out here that's catching what I'm saying. Slowly your God consciousness is eroded. All of a sudden you find yourself in a position where you don't feel God like you used to. You don't experience God like you used to. You're not talking to God like you used to, because you got all of these other things. You got all of these other people. You got all these other activities. You got all of these things things that have now become, hey, Gwen, how are you, sweetheart? All of a sudden, Brandon, in the midst of everything that's going on, those things are more important. Look at the situation that happens. Look at what happens. Look at what happens. And so every time that Samson would lie to Delilah, she would say, the Philistines, they hear the Philistines are coming. And he would get up, and whatever she used to bind him would break off like butter. And he'd go up there and beat the Philistines. And she said, baby, yeah, this ain't right. This ain't right. This ain't right. This is not how you're supposed to treat me. And finally, he broke down, Tammy. Finally, he broke down and said, if you cut my hair, I'll be just like any other man. And in the midst of that, while he was asleep, she cut all of his hair off of his head. And then the call came. The Philistines are coming. And in the midst of this, are y'all listening to what I'm saying? Are you really listening to what I'm saying? In the midst of this, Samson got up and shook himself, which was the way to engage the power of the Holy Spirit, and did not know his strength was gone. Oh, don't make me shout on that one. My question to you is the reason your heart is hard, the reason that you can't feel anymore, the reason that God can't get through to you is because you don't know that your strength is gone. You shake yourself. You go through the rigors of religion. You go through hearing the word of God. You go through the songs and the scriptures. You go through all of those things. And then when the enemy comes, you shake yourself and you don't even know your strength is gone. And that's when you stay home. Oh, D, that's when you don't read anymore. That's when you don't, because now you have a justification for an alternative lifestyle that is outside of the will of God. And then you wonder why some things happen. You wonder why things go wrong. You wonder why you don't have strength. You wonder why there seems to not be a moment in your life when you are able to overcome. It's because you shook yourself and you don't even know your strength is gone. Because eventually, if you continue to not listen to what God says, you continue to not walk with God, your heart gets hard. Oh, because that's the seat of your emotions. Your heart gets hard to the point that not only are you callous toward other people, but that callousness toward other people is also a direct reflection of how callous you are toward God. Oh God, don't get mad at me. Don't get mad at me. It's my assignment to teach this lesson. It's my assignment to let you know that the God that you have swayed away from, the God that you have decided that you don't have time for, is so in love with you. Okay, y'all gonna catch this in a minute, because if you look at the story of Samson, they took out his eyes, they turned him into a beast of burden, and then all of a sudden he said to the Lord, if you just give me one more chance, if you give me another opportunity, I'll rectify what I did wrong. And isn't that just like God? God says in the midst of, hey Lee, how are you, man? Good to see you with us on today. In the midst of everything that I've done wrong, in the midst of me negating you, in the midst of not trusting you, I love you so much that all you got to do is tell me. All I want to do is come back home, just like the prodigal son. When he woke up, when he recognized that where he was outside of the will of God, he said, my dad's got hired servants that's got more than I do. I am no longer worthy to be called your son. Just make me a hired servant and I'll be much better off than where I am right now. What happens when your heart gets hard? What happens when you can't feel the Lord anymore? Not only can you not feel the Lord anymore, but also you lose your joy. Every day becomes drudgery. Every moment becomes heartache. Have you ever been to the point that all you wanted to do was just roll back over in the covers and let the whole day go by? Yes, I know that's a sign of clinical depression, and I understand that clearly, but it could be the fact that you have now found yourself in a critical situation is due to the fact that you have no longer sensed the presence and power of God. And because you no longer sense that presence and that intimacy that God requires of us, you don't have joy anymore. Nothing makes you happy. No one makes you happy. Nothing can make us put a smile on you. Nothing. All of the things that's happening in life are drudgery. And the sad part about it, okay, I'm getting ready to get in trouble. Minister Mike, I see you coming on board. I see you coming on board now, Robin. In the midst of all of this, in the midst of everything that's going on, there are miserable people, Pastor Bowie. There are miserable, bent out of shape folk that don't even know they're miserable, don't even know they're carrying misery, don't even know that they're bent out of shape, because they're always complaining. They ain't never happy. Everything is wrong in life. I go from one bad thing to another bad thing to another bad thing to another bad thing, and they become infectious. And the reason they become infectious is because now that stigmatism of a lack of joy in their life has now created cataracts in your eyes. Lord, let me let me deal with this just the way it is. That's why. And I know people can be real critical of that, but that's the reason why I can't be around somebody that can't find nothing good in nothing. I can't be around people who are always miserable all the time. Just because you lost your joy don't mean I want to lose mine. And so in the midst of all that's going on, here's what I've got to do. Jesus says that my joy may be in you and that my joy might be complete. John 15:11. Jesus is saying joy is an intricate part of intimacy between you and the Lord, and it's also an intricate part on how joy affects your behavior. Okay, let me talk about this for just a moment. Okay, for those of you who drink, okay, and don't even try it, and so many times, the sober and the intoxicated. Now, I don't really want to go to the level of intoxication because then that's just ridiculous. But have you ever noticed that people cannot have a good time without some level of alcohol ingested? I want you to think, okay, y'all ready for this? I don't really think you're ready for this. But I want to see if you can get this. Are y'all listening to what I'm saying? Many times, bars and clubs and parties become the substitute for what God has to offer. Okay. Oh, okay. Yeah, I know I just messed some of y'all up when I said that. But that's why people are so mad that they can't go where the alcohol is, that they can't go where the drugs are. They can't go to the place that provides some level of temporary relief, Linda. Temporary relief. They are a different kind of person when they partying. They are different. They got joy. They're happy. They're dancing. They're doing all of these things. They're enjoying all of these things. And then the next day when that moment is over, they are back to misery. They are back to being hateful. They are back to being mean. They are back to being distrustful. And see, here's what we've got to see. And this is what we've got to recognize, and this is what we've got to understand. They are fighting for that feeling. Jesus, help me to teach this like you gave it to me. They are fighting mad for that feeling because they're trying to find it in everything else, in everybody else, in all of the other things that are going on. And isn't it amazing that what the joy of the Lord will provide for you, you don't have to ingest it. It's an automatic part of your existence. As a matter of fact, Jesus is very clear. He says, out of your belly shall come rivers of living water. And so in the midst of this, he's trying to get us to understand joy is an intricate indicator of the fact that you and the Lord are still connected tight and y'all rolling together. Okay, all right. Yeah, I know. I know I'm losing some of y'all. I'm losing some of y'all. I'm watching my numbers drop a little bit. And the reason I'm watching them drop is because this may be a hard pill to swallow for some people. This may be a little difficult for some people to understand and to catch and to recognize. I should not need to ingest something that will put a smile on my face, Angela. I should not need some level of external stimuli to provide some means of putting happiness and joy in my life. The joy of the Lord is my strength. My strength cannot come from ingesting. My strength comes from participating. Oh, bless his holy name. I wish I had somebody to help me, okay? And since we need to recognize that when you come in contact with a joyless saint, you are actually coming in contact with someone who, just like Samson, has lost their joy and don't know it. We know it. We see it. We can't even tell you anything about it, because if we do, the first thing you want to do is retaliate and do like somebody else does. I saw an interview that took place, and a certain conversation went on, and rather than owning up to their own prowess and their own situation, the first thing that came out of their mouth, well, somebody else did that and somebody else did that. Have you ever run into people who always use the downtrodden and the downfalling experience of other people to justify their present position? Okay. Because see, when you're right with God, when you're walking right with God, I need somebody to let me know that everything is good on the website and YouTube. If somebody could do that for me, I'd appreciate it. And so in the midst of this, Lord have mercy, help me to teach it. Lord, help me to teach it. And in the midst of teaching it, Lord, help it to get through so people can understand what this is all about. Back in the day, I was running from the Lord. Back in the day, I didn't want to be bothered with the Lord. So what did I do? I anesthetized myself with other things because I did not want what God had in store for me, because I thought I could create a substitute for it. And so here's what you got to remember. When you run into somebody who claims to be saved, who claims to know the Lord, and they are miserable all the time, they are downtrodden all the time, they drag you down all the time, it's because they shook themselves and did not know that their strength was gone. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. And so in the midst of this is what we got to remember. And then, can I go a little bit further? Can I go just a little bit further? Don't change the channel on me right now. Don't change the channel. I'm trying to deal with what is necessary in order for you to get your heart back, in order for you to feel again, in order for you to experience the joy of the Lord, in order for you to be everything that God would have you to be. And so in the midst of that, you also don't produce spiritual fruit anymore. Okay. I know I'm gonna lose some of you. God doesn't necessarily want you to produce every fruit, but at least there ought to be some fruit. You can't say you love the Lord and you are connected with him and your fellowship with him is strong, and you have no fruit. And the reason you have no fruit, oh, bless his name, is because you are no longer connected to the vine. Because you can't, thank you so much, you can't produce. I'm trying to check the sound too, to make sure the sound is well. I'm doing some sound checks on a couple of things. You cannot produce what you are not connected to. Oh my God, Lord, help me, please. You must remember that the source of productivity is not your ability. The source of your productivity is your ability to produce, to develop, to promulgate, to display before everybody what it means to know the Lord. The fruit of the Spirit ought to be evident in your life. You ought to be able to love others like God loves you. Oh my God. Okay. You got to be able to do that. And how do I know? How do I really know that I'm where I should be? It's not that I can just love the folk that's loving me, but I got to love the jerks, the jacks, the crazy people who have dogged me out and treated me like dirt, and yet still in the midst of it, when I see them, I don't bristle up. When I see them, I don't run from them. When I see them, I can still speak cordial to each and every one of them, no matter how deep they have push the knife into my heart. Oh, God, help me to teach this like you gave it to me. And so in the midst of this, I ought to have love. But you can't love somebody when your heart is cold, when your heart is stony, when your heart has been infiltrated by hate, has been infiltrated by envy and malice and lust and deceitfulness. You can't have a heart for anything. You can fake it. But the people who hang out with you, the people who know you're not right with God, because they're trying to figure out what's the difference between the Sunday person and the person I'm seeing right now. Okay? Thank y'all so much. Thank you. And so in the midst of all of this, we see this quite clearly. So what am I talking about? I should have love. I should have joy. I should have peace. I should not be on this frantic manhunt to be able to go to sleep. I should not have to be going to the pharmaceutical agencies, to a doctor to turn around and put me to sleep so that I could do that. The reason I can't sleep is because my mind is so encompassed with so many things that are not under my control, nor do they belong to me. Oh my God. You can ask Lady Harrison, when a certain time comes around, man, I'm out. Okay, y'all not hearing what I'm saying. It ain't about sitting up all night staring at the ceiling. It ain't about talking about, oh God, what am I? No, I'm going to sleep. And the reason I'm going to sleep is because I got peace. Now, let me help you. Are y'all still with me? Are you still with me? I'm not saying that I don't have trouble. I'm not saying that I don't go through trials. I'm not saying that issues don't pop up. I'm not saying that some things are going crazy in my life. I'm not saying that stuff don't break down and get on my nerves. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is, and what I need you to understand, is it still doesn't stop me from having peace. Because if I don't have peace, I will make a foolish, ridiculous, off the chain decision that is going to affect everything else I do. Not only will it affect me, but it will also affect everyone around me. I need to have peace. And in the midst of having peace, I also should have patience. Now, you ever run into people, you can't even have a 30-second conversation with them before they're ready to go off. Just hateful. And then you want to blame it on other people. Oh, that sounds like somebody else. Because the people who always blame other people for them not being patient are the people who are not willing to face the reason they are not patient. And so there's some things that you got to listen. Can I ask a question? I just want to ask a question. Can I ask a question? Can I ask a question? Here's the question I want to ask you. Does God have patience with you? Yeah. I'm going to wait on you. I'm going to wait on you because I need to wait because I know there's a delay. Does God have patience with you? I'm not talking about throughout all of your life. I'm talking about right now. What have you yet done that you told God you were going to do, and he still keeps blessing you? Hey Mary, how are you? I wish I had somebody to help me. I wish I had somebody out here to catch what I'm saying. If God can be patient with us, in our inconsistencies and our proclivities and the stuff that we do, why is it that we can't be patient with anybody else? Now, I'm not talking about somebody who has blatantly made it up in their mind, I really don't care. I'm talking about the struggling. I'm talking about the people who really want to, but that monkey is on their back so tough, they don't even know what to do. And so in the midst of that, you also ought to learn how to be kind. Here's to see, and I know I'm throwing it out here, and people now gonna know the real you. You ought to have some kindness. What does kindness do? I'm glad you asked me that question. Kindness goes out of its way when it does not want to. Kindness says, let me help you, and I'm tired myself. Kindness says, is there something I can do for you even while I stand in need of want? Okay? Kindness. Then you ought to have goodness. You, when your heart is hard, when your heart is calloused, you can't see anything good in other people, and you also can't see anything good in God. Oh, Jesus, help me to teach this, Dimples, like the Lord gave it to me. I want you to catch this. I want you to catch this, okay? If you ever run into somebody that all they do, all they see is what's wrong with everybody but themselves. All they talk about is how bad somebody is and how horrible somebody is and how ridiculous somebody is. And what they fail to understand, okay, in the midst of that, you ought to have some goodness about yourself. Because, see, when your heart is hard, when your heart is calloused, you only see that which is relevant to your present position. Oh, let me say that again. When your heart is hard and callous, you can only perceive that which is relevant to your present position. If you can't find nothing good in nobody, it's because there's not much good operating in you. Okay, y'all. With everybody you come in contact with, all you do is diagnose them about what's wrong with them, about their shortcomings, about everything that's wrong. That's because that's you. Jesus, help me. Am I teaching this lesson? I'm trying to teach this like the Lord gave it to. This is important, because what you constantly observe about other people is relevant to your present self. Jesus, Lord. And I'm trying not to be mean in the midst of all of this, but if all you find is bad, all you see is wrong, it's because that's all you are. You can't see good in people until God has changed your heart. Okay, somebody might say, well, I really don't believe that. Can I ask a question? Here's the question I want to ask. Did God wait until you got good to die? Or did God wait till you got good for Jesus to die on the cross? Or did he die on the cross while you were yet bad, understanding that his death on the cross would dramatically transform your life from bad to good? I need to ask that question. This is important for us to recognize. If all you see is bad, then that's the callousness of your own heart. If all you ever see is what's no good in everybody else, it is because this is where you are. Okay, I know y'all don't like me. I know y'all don't like me today. But in order for God to change that stony heart into flesh, you've got to recognize that I don't have a fleshly heart. Create within me a clean heart and renew the right spirit. But you can't ask God to change and create until you recognize the need for it. Why did you get saved? Because you recognized a need for it. Why did God send his son to die? Because he recognized a need for it. And so in the midst of that, you see everybody through the lens of your own existence. You see everybody through the viewfinder of where your heart is. And so here's what you got to remember. Here's what you got to remember. In order for you to look at people through the eyes of God, here you go. Ready? You must also have the heart of God. And I say this all the time, and I say it on many occasions. How do you know when your heart has been changed? How do you know when the change and the transformation has happened in your heart? When you can be hurt again. Because as long as you've got that barrier up, as long as you say, I ain't never gonna let nobody bother and run over me and do anything bad to me again, the right person that God sends your way may be wounded by your inability to see what God is doing, because all you can see is what's wrong rather than seeing what's right in them. Okay, so that's enough of that. I did that. And then you also got to have faith. You can't be running around as a woe is me kind of person. You gotta have faith. You gotta have faith to believe that what God says He's going to do, He will do it, and He will do it when He says He will do it. And however long it takes for you to wait for Him to do it, it's okay, because they that wait upon the Lord shall renew their strength. They shall mount up with wings as eagles. They shall run and not be weary. They shall walk and not faint. So what is He saying? They that wait, like a waiter waits on the people at the table. They that wait upon the Lord. When you wait on God, when you serve God, your strength is renewed. Why? Because your encounter is between you and God. Okay? Then you also have gentleness. You can feel everybody ain't trying to take advantage of you. Everybody ain't trying to get over on you. Everybody ain't trying to use you. Okay? And I'm going to say this through the viewfinder of your own existence. God gives you discernment. You know if somebody's shiesty trying to take advantage of you. That's not what I'm talking about. It's when there's a legitimate need that can be met by you and you choose not to, based upon something else or a bad decision you made at another time. And so then, because you made a bad decision and somebody took advantage of you, now I ain't gonna never let nobody. No. Can I talk to y'all for just a second? Can I talk to you for just a second? Here's what you need to understand, my saints of the Most High God. You have not lived your life absolved from the gentleness and the kindness of other people in your life. You sit back here and act like ain't nobody ever cared for you. Nobody. Who were the people that lent you money they knew you couldn't pay back? I see, here we go. Who were the people that gave you rides to work because your car was broke down? Who were the people who saw you in a destitute situation and yet still were there for you? Who were the people who picked you up out of the dirge and the drudgery of life and provided for you sustenance and ability and encouragement and direction when you didn't want any? You can't sit back here and tell me that I'm my own man, I'm my own woman. The devil is a liar. All of us are alive because of God sending somebody else our way to rescue us when we didn't have the good sense to come out of the storm. Are y'all hearing what I'm saying? And then all of a sudden, everybody's taking advantage of. How many people have you taken advantage of? How many people have you lied to? How many people have you said, I'm going to do this, and you ain't did it yet? And yet still, God sends people to help you. And so since God continually sends people your way, what's wrong with you? You know what's wrong with you? Your demeanor and your reflections of attitude and disposition are directly connected to the position of your own heart. Then you ought to have some self-control. You ought not cuss out everybody. Okay, all right. I mean, my God, you just ought not cuss out everybody. You just ought not go off on everybody. You just ought not be mean to everybody. You just shouldn't be that way. And I got people, I can't help myself. My mama was like that. My daddy was like that. My granddad. I got people in my family that was mean as you know what. But does that mean that I continue to carry that generational curse? Does that mean that I keep blaming generations before me for not being the Christ-centered person that I'm supposed to be right now? If I'm a new creation, old things have passed away, behold, things have become new. Where's the newness when the old is still reigning? Where's the transformation when the oldness is still prevalent? Oh my God. Dimples, can we be honest and see? I know there's some of them out here that ain't gonna ever own up to generational curses. They ain't never. Dimples, I'm telling you, they're never gonna do it. I know my family. I know my family tree. I know where I come from, and I know the proclivities of where I come from. I know how evil and hateful I can be. I know how mean I can be. I know how short-tempered I can be. I know me. And because I know me, I make a choice not to live my old me. And it is a choice that I have to make on a day-by-day, moment-by-moment basis. Because if I don't exercise some level of self-control, I will cuss everybody out. I will shoot everything that comes my way. I will cut anybody that looks at me the wrong way, because that generational curse is in me. Okay. Pastor Thomas said confession is good for the soul but bad for the reputation. Just needed to lay it out there. Okay? Because I ain't got nothing to hide. Just need to lay it out there. Need to call it what it needs to be called. And for those that turn around and say, oh, I ain't, yes you do. All of us got our family tree in us. All of us do. But we're new creations. We're new creation. We're new creations in Christ Jesus. And we have to consistently face the demons that have been in our families for years. And we must be able to conquer them. So what do I got to do? I got to learn self-control. I have to learn how to keep my mouth shut when I want to say, well, I want to give you a piece of my mind and a piece of a couple of other people's minds as well. And I will not do it, because what I will say will injure you and will cause you to look at me and say, oh, you call yourself a Christian. I'm still a Christian, but I'm a carnal Christian that ain't got the good sense to understand that if God has been that good to me in the midst of all of my craziness, there's some good that I ought to be towards somebody else. Okay? That's all I want to say. Okay? And the fruit of the Spirit should be in your life. But if your heart is hard, if your heart is calloused, if your heart, you can't feel anything. You can't feel anybody. You can't have compassion for anybody. You can't produce fruit that is a listen. Okay, this is getting ready to mess y'all up. Fruit, the bearing of fruit, is not for your participation. Oh my God. You don't bear fruit for you to eat. You bear fruit for others to eat, for others to enjoy, for others to participate in. That's why you bear fruit. So that when people are bent out of shape and tore up come along, they pluck something off that will bring them back to where they need to be. I'm done. I'll deal with a little bit more of this. Oh, no, I won't be dealing with it next week, I don't think. Next week is our virtual Congress of Christian Education. And so if I'm not mistaken, I will be preaching on Monday night of our Congress of Christian Education. And so you need to register. If you haven't registered, there are day sessions that you can register for. And that's for those churches that are unified churches. And then there's the evening worship services that are going to take place that start at 7 p.m. I'm going to get the schedule out on Facebook within the next day or so people will know what's what and be able to go from there. But let me say this to you. Let me say this. Thank you so much for allowing me to be a part of your learning experience. Thank you so much for permitting me to be able to share with you from the word of the Lord. And I pray that it has been a blessing to you. I need to share this with you, that if this ministry is a blessing to you, would you mind sowing into it? I know we have a lot of people. We talked to a lady yesterday putting a check in the mail, member of another church, but we've been a blessing to them. And so if you want to do so, you can make the check out to the Union Baptist Church for whatever the amount the Lord lays on your heart. Mail it off to 528 Lincoln Avenue, Youngstown, Ohio, 44502. Again, that's the Union Baptist Church, 528 Lincoln Avenue, Youngstown, Ohio, 44502. Also, you can give through Givelify. You can go on that app and you can look up Union Baptist Church. Again, the address is 528 Lincoln Avenue. You can sow that seed into the ministry that way. You can also do it through Cash App, which is $Union 528, $UNION 528. You can do that. You can give through PayPal. We have a myriad and a plethora of ways of which you can sow into the ministry for those members of the Union Church, or for whoever wants to sow seed into the work of ministry. We ask that you would do so, and that you would continue to support the work of ministry. We are doing the best we can during a COVID moment, during this moment when we're not able to gather, we're not able to do the things that we normally do, but we are asking for your continual financial support. We need you to do that. We need you to support the work of ministry. There's some other things that we want to do. There's some things that we want to expand as far as our ministry is concerned, because at the rate things are going, we're not even sure when we're going back in the building. So there's some more equipment we need to buy. There's some other things we need to do so that we can make sure we know that some things are not streaming right, and there's other equipment that I've purchased in order that we might be able to bring to you the best quality of ministry that we possibly can. Katrina is putting the means whereby you will be able to give. Please, no amount is too large, no amount is too small. And if you would do so, I know that the Lord will bless you for putting seed in good ground as you sow into the Union Church, as you sow into the ministry that the Lord has blessed us with at the Union Church. God will meet you at the point of your need. Let me say this. I don't ask you to give to get. I asked you to give because you already have. Oh, bless his name. So I want you to have a blessed evening in the Lord. Continue to lift up our church family. Continue to lift up one another. I'm going to say this because, yes, snail mail, she's putting this stuff up here. I don't think they can see it on mine's, Katrina. I think it comes up on Union's, and I don't know if you want to hop over on my page and put the same information out there or not. because I have people on different pages. And for those of you who are watching, if you're on Facebook, you can follow the prompt on Facebook in order for you to be able to give. And it's Union's Facebook page that you are able to sow that seed in. I want you to know that we love you, we love you, we love you, we love you from the depths of our heart, from the depths of our soul. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for your support, for being a part of the work of ministry. Thank you for your financial support. Thank you for trusting the God in me to be a blessing to you. May God bless you. May he keep you. That's right. Register to vote, and make sure that you fill out your census. Okay, that's important because we want to make sure that everyone can do it. May God bless you and may he keep you is our prayer.